Guys, I just have to say, watch out. The Tin Man has gone off the rails. He is just insane. He's talking about burning people, and I mean, he seems completely out of his mind. He's right behind me, isn't he? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today our movie in the middle is Wicked for Good. Wicked for Good is the second half of the story of Elphaba and Glinda as they take their respective roles as the Wicked Witch and Good Witch, despite their friendship and knowing what is truly right. It stars Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, Jonathan Bailey, Michelle Yeoh, Ethan Slater, Marissa Bode, Colman Domingo, and Jeff Goldblum. Sorry for the delay in getting any videos out and just it being a little bit quiet. I know it's been a clock tick. As you can probably still hear, I have been fighting a cold or back-to-back colds for like 2.5 weeks now, and it's starting to get old. But it's almost done, so I am finally able to talk about this movie in almost full volume. So as you know, I absolutely love the first Wicked, and it was my favorite movie of last year, and this was my second most anticipated movie of this year, only because I was like, I know it's probably not going to match the energy and the basically everything that I loved about the first one. And that's what I was basically hearing from people, is that it's not the first one, it's not going to capture that magic, but it's still pretty good. So I was still really excited, and I was honestly most excited to see all of the Wizard of Oz aspects of this one now that we're sort of getting into that one. So I was really, really stoked to see what they were going to do with it. So let's talk about it. Starting off with the highs, like the first one, everything design-wise, the production design, the costume design, the choice of shots, and the scale of the movie, again, just feels huge. Once again, the flying scenes just look impeccable. Everything look-wise about the movie is just beautifully done, except the color correction. Honestly, I can see what people are talking about now, because when I was looking through the trailer footage for this movie, for this review, I did a little bit of like self-color correction, and it just did look way better. And then when I look back at the original, I'm like, ooh, yeah, that looks pretty washed out. I don't know what they're thinking when they do these movies, why they're color correcting it the way that they do. When I watched both of them, I didn't really notice it, but now that I did notice it, I can't really unsee it. And if the costume designs do not win Best Costume for all of the awards, especially for the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, like, what are we even doing? The songs in this one are pretty good. I've never been a huge fan of the second half of Wicked songs. Like, they're good, they're just not like the first half. Obviously, there's the breakout ones like, you know, No Good Deed and For Good. And then they actually added 2 songs in this one, which I thought they were both fine. You know, especially the one that has to do with the animals. I liked that one a lot because at least it incorporated the animals a little bit into this movie, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, overall, I thought the songs were really well done. The visuals, obviously, especially for No Good Deed, again, the scope, the power that song brings, the visuals for that, how the sky looks and everything. It's still daylight, but there's a lot of, like, you know, the storm clouds, the purplish, the orange coming through the sky. So all of that was really, really great. And the relationship between Elphaba and Glinda, once again, and how it's a lot more complex this time around, because obviously they have to take on their, like I was saying, respective roles as the Wicked Witch, who she's got to do what she knows is right, and also Glinda, who, you know, knows that Elphaba is a good person and knows what she's doing, but she can't say that in the face of all of Oz. She has to, like, kind of play this role, and it also kind of, you know, looks at, she wants this role. This is what she's always wanted, and so that was really cool, kind of that complex emotions, you know, as they're interacting with each other, and then there's, you know, moments when they get to be just with each other. That was really good. I mean, especially the relationship between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande really comes out again here. It's getting a little weird. At this point, I think the press tour stuff's like, all right, no, it was funny. Y'all are just being weird now. So, for my lows, it's sadly a good chunk of the movie, because it has to do with the writing and the characters and all of that. I think I agree with a lot of people when I say that this movie feels incredibly rushed. Now, the thing about this is that they are obviously adapting the stage production, and I know that a lot of people, the majority of people, feel the same way about the stage production, so it's like, all right, they're just following that. The thing is I think that lends itself better to the stage, like, it's less noticeable, you know, like, through that medium, I think it just adapts better, because a lot of stage productions do that, especially musicals, where you spend a lot of time in the first half setting up a lot of things, setting up characters, setting up plot points, and then the second half comes, and you have to rush through to, like, tie up all the loose ends, to figure everything out, to get it all squared away. And especially when it comes to songs, it feels like we've got so much plot to get through. The songs start to feel less like they're enhancing what's going on in a scene, and more like they're wasting time. But especially with the movies, like, they purposefully let the first half breathe a little bit. They stretched it out a little bit. They gave a lot of time in this first movie. Why can't you do that with the second one? Because then it really pales. Now, I was ready for, like, the second one to be a little more action, a little bit faster and everything. The problem is it's skipping stuff, particularly when it comes to characters and character arcs. Again, if this is what it's like on the stage, that's fine, but you're allowed to change stuff in the movie a little bit. You're allowed to add things if it's going to improve it and make it better. For example, Nessa. Nessa just feels completely 180'd in this one. There's no scenes of transition. There's no gradual arcs or reasons that she is the way she is now, except for maybe one or two things that they hint at very quickly. The decisions that she makes in this one, and how fast she's doing that, and how utterly insane she's gotten, is just odd to me. Without giving too much away, there's also something about her and the Grimoire that, for me, just feels like a logical inconsistency. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to tell you specifically what it is, but if you've seen the movie, you might know what I'm talking about in terms of things that she's able to do versus other people. The animals don't really get as much time in this one, and granted, I mean, they can't really talk for most of this one because that's, like, part of the plot, but we just don't get to see them as much, and that's, like, the entire reason that Elphaba's doing what she's doing. So I'm glad that they added that one song, because it really got to, you know, actually focus on that for a bit. But then we don't really see a lot of resolution with them, and that's kind of a running theme in this movie, is that the first half of this movie is fine, but it's just that it feels like we run out of time and we don't get to address a lot of characters later on. And the animals being kind of the motivation for what she's doing, it feels weird that we don't really get to see that. Even Fanny and the other one, they were like a huge part of the comic relief of the first one, and we barely see them in this movie. And Michelle Yeoh, unfortunately, we actually do see her a lot. That's the only one I'm going to say that I'm mad about that. She's a good actress, except in these movies. I don't know what it is, but she just feels so stilted. And she can't sing. Evidently, she didn't even want the role at first, and I can see why. But the one that bothers me the most, or I should say, the three that bother me the most in terms of rushed characters, skip things, are the trio. The Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, I understand this is not The Wizard of Oz. I understand that this is not their story. It's Elphaba and Glinda. However, it is still part of the story, and I was incredibly excited to see how they portray it and the amount of screen time we're going to get with these characters, especially after seeing the designs of the characters. It really sucks because I have to say I was genuinely underwhelmed. Almost every single moment that we got with those three is in the trailer. I mean, down to, like, there was a shot that I saw that I thought was going to be part of a whole scene, and that is literally just the one shot of that entire moment that I thought we were going to see. Like, it really sucks because for a long time, I've thought if anybody was going to redo Wizard of Oz, like, you don't redo Wizard of Oz, but if you're going to do it again, my only concession was it has to be Tim Burton. I want to see what Tim Burton does with a weird, creepy, gothic version of the Yellow Brick Road and the Witch and the main four and the Wizard and all of that. That was my only, like, if you're going to do that, it has to be him. But then they were coming out with this, and I thought, okay, actually, that's a really good way to take it, because you can do Wizard of Oz, sort of, and you can come up with a couple of, like, darker designs for these characters. And then we got those designs, and I was like, this is going to be so cool. And it honestly feels like even for the little bit we got of each of these characters, stuff was deleted or cut out, or just like the Spark Notes versions. And like, it literally feels like there's just stuff missing from even what they wanted to give us. You are allowed to make changes or add stuff to this if it's going to make it better. And if you did that in the first one, if you gave me characters that you wanted me to care about and have a lot of time with and feel for, why then am I not getting resolutions to those characters later on? And I'm not just talking about like the transformations into the Scarecrow and the Tin Man and everything. One of them was not great. One of them was pretty good. After that, there's characters I don't even know what happens to them. And again, I know they're not the focus of the story. It just really bothered me. I also just found it really funny that the marketing team was like, oh, you're not even going to believe who we got for the Lion. It's one of the coolest voice actors. It's going to be so good. It's Colman Domingo. I'm sorry. I just couldn't hold it in any longer. It didn't even matter. I would not have guessed it was him. It sounded so incredibly regular. I'll say this. The acting and what we did get of those characters was pretty cool. Specifically, Ethan Slater as the Tin Man. Wow, he was so aggressive.
Due to her, I'm made of tin. Her spell made this occur. So for once, I'm glad I'm heartless. I'll be heartless till I hurt.
It was great. He acted his heart out. I would never have known that it was him. I will say it's not like I'm lacking on Ethan Slater material as a whole. I've seen enough of him on my social media as of late.
This kind of day couldn't get much better, but it keeps on trying. Yeah.
And finally, and this is something that I didn't really realize until I was talking to other people after the movie about it, there's honestly even a preference to focus on Glinda over Elphaba in this one. And it never really dawned on me that that's sort of the same in the first half as well. Not as much, but they do present the story, this entire story, as if it's through Glinda's perspective, even though it is Elphaba's story. Now, in the first one, they sort of 50-50 it anyway, even though they, like, start in on Glinda's perspective. But then in this one, not only is it wrapped up as Glinda's story, because it was, you know, her telling it from the beginning, but there's even more of a focus on developing her as a character and her backstory and feeling more for her in this one, which is totally cool. Like, she's one of the main two characters. We should focus on her backstory and her being fleshed out. It's just weird that they focus mostly on that when this is also Elphaba's story, and I get it's a 50-50, but it just felt weird to do that in this one. Now, they did focus on a lot of the backstory and everything of Elphaba in the first one, and kind of her character arc, so maybe that's the reason, you know, we didn't get as much of that for Glinda this time around, so maybe it's just 50-50. Maybe this is honestly more of a middle, but it is just more noticeable now that I've heard of that. So overall, I don't want to say that I'm disappointed with this movie, but I can't walk away other than feeling underwhelmed and a little disappointed by some of the stuff. And I will say, a lot of it is very, very well done. Like, I'm really shitting on it for some things, I know that, but just because I was so excited and hyped for it. But that being said, a lot of it is still really good. Again, the scale, the shots, the visuals, go see this in IMAX. It is still a very, very good movie. I just personally have so many things I was excited for, and that really underwhelmed me, so that's why it sounds worse than it is. But I think I'm just being harsher on it than a lot of other people will, only because I was so invested in it. Honestly, it's probably a good thing. If this movie had been as good, or nearly as good as the first, I probably was going to become insufferable, so it's probably for the best. It's probably for good. I'm going to give Wicked for Good a 2.5 out of 4. Well, guys, let me know what you thought of Wicked for Good. How does it match to the first? How does it match to the stage production? Do you give it a little bit more leeway because they're just following that? Or do you think, yeah, they could have changed some stuff because they kind of did? And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.